Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 20th February 2017. The first article, Upsetting a Very Fine Balance. It talks about the role of Supreme Court in Indian judiciary. You all know that Indian constitution is based on popular sovereignty. That is, it is based on individuals' capacity to reason and elect their leaders. But however, at the same time, power can be mischievous and power shall be controlled. So, a limited government has come into force. So, the fundamental rights are guarantees to the citizen against the excessive use of the power by the state. And Supreme Court and High Courts in India are placed as the guardians of these fundamental rights. The Article 13 of the Constitution, it has clearly stated that the state shall not make any law that violates the fundamental rights. It means that any law, if it violates the fundamental rights, that can be declared as null and void by the Supreme Court. That's why it is being regarded as the protector of the fundamental rights. So, now the very Supreme Court, it has given certain judgments that goes against the freedom of speech and expression. So, let us analyze the three important judgments that have come up now. The first thing is, there is a movie released, Jolly LLB 2. So the High Court of Bombay, it has asked for censorship of certain scenes even after CBFC certification, saying that they are demeaning to the profession, to the legal profession. And the Supreme Court did not entertain the appeal in the process. And the second thing is, the Supreme Court made playing the national anthem mandatory in movie theaters, and standing for them is also made mandatory. So in this context, the imposed patriotism of Supreme Court has come into criticism. And the third thing is, it is about censoring the internet. It is specifically in relation to advertisements on Preconception and Prenatal Diagnosis Act. So according to this, any keyword that provides for the sex identification shall be banned or shall be blocked by the search engine. That is what is the Supreme Court statement is. So in this context, so any of the sex determination, if this word has to be searched for, it can be for a research purpose, for any other purpose, but a blanket banning of the searching of the keywords on the search engine is not advised. So this ill-advised decisions of the Supreme Court is decreasing the respect of the people, people towards the highest court of the land. And in this context, we need to talk about PIL, public interest litigation. It has clearly, getting misused and is becoming a reason for judicial activism. The PIL, when it has originated, it is meant to provide access to justice for the poor and underprivileged. But today it has become a private interest litigation or publicity interest litigation, and underweight also a reason for growth in judicial activism today. And then the next is speak in our own voice. So what this article is talking about? In this, Suhasini either clearly states that our independence in diplomacy has to be maintained. Now, United States of America and US Ambassador to India, Mr. Richard Verma, is very much active in raising the fears of India vis-a-vis China. And to an extent, US is actively pursuing the containment of China, and India has got a due place in it. In this context, US also has moved the regional powers such as Japan and Australia to come close to India and form a middle power coalition to counter the China. So in this case, the author advises two things. It will not be of much use because India is not a part of the protection umbrella of the United States of America. It is not an ally of United States of America as like Japan or Australia. And the second thing is, any coalition will help to limit the Chinese power on the marine regime. It will not help in India anyway in solving its land boundary dispute with China. So in this context, a composite dialogue is being started between India and China, and India shall directly engage with China on its problems, and no intervention is being advised for India on these matters. That's what is Suhasini Haidar talks about. Now let's get into smoke on the water. So this is about recent Bellandur Lake incident in Bengaluru. The chemical sludge has attracted fire and has led to a huge smog in the city of Bengaluru. And Bengaluru recently report states that in the next 5 years it will be a dead city. So 80% of the tree cover and 79% of the wet lakes got disappeared due to the rise in human activity and the construction. So in this context, understand that it is not just the problem of the Bengaluru alone. Even Hyderabad, Chennai, everything, everywhere this is the problem. You have observed that recently Chennai floods they are majorly due to the obstruction of the sewages. So in this context, what we have to do? Across India, the wetlands are being lost at a very faster pace. According to Salim Ali Center for Ornithology, around 32% of the wetlands are already been lost. So in this context, the government of India shall take an active action in protection of the wetlands, especially in the urban areas. In every city, it can constitute a lake development authority which has a responsibility towards protection of these bodies. And you all know that wetlands, these are storm breakers. Wetlands are the kidneys of the cities. It means that they take many of the unwanted material from the city and then they try to refine them. So that's why wetlands are necessary for every city and it is responsibility of us to protect the same. Now, let's go to the OpenEd page. There are no important articles in the OpenEd today. How to fend off bouncers. It is about the recent advisors who are appointed for restructuring the BCCI and implementation of the LODA panel. Just it has given certain guidelines to them and it is not necessary for us in this context. Now, let's get into the next article. A call for cheaper genetic screening. Now, understand, there are three cancers which are very closely related. They are breast cancer, ovarian, and fallopian tube cancer. Now, ovarian cancer manifests in the very late stages, and the genes which are responsible for are BRCA1 and BRCA2, and their prevalence is also high among the Indian women. So, in this context, if the genes are being detected early, prophylactic mastectomy can be taken up. But however, the detection of these genes is very delayed in India, the reason being the cost of genetic screening. So, if we can bring down the cost of genetic screening, the early detection of the cancers is possible among the Indian women. Now, let's go to the next page. So, last year this was the question, foreign funds surge under NDA rule, last before year. So, it talks about the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. According to this, any NGO, if it has to receive the foreign funds, it has to get registered with the Home Ministry under Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. As of now, around 19,000 NGOs are receiving foreign contributions, and among them, during the NDA government, the receipts have been increased. So, when NDA government has come to power, it has changed the rules under FCRA and has clearly stated that every NGO has to give an undertaking that the foreign funds do not undermine security, sovereignty, integrity, and foreign relations of India, and also the communal harmony. So, recently, Compassion International was placed under the watch list stating that it is disturbing the religious harmony existing in the country. And also, the second thing is, every NGO receiving the foreign funds has to give an undertaking that it is not using these foreign funds again as the interests of India, economic, social, security, strategic interests of India. So the Greenpeace International was kept under or else is been suspended from FCRL stating that its activities are challenging the economic interests of India. So the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act has been criticized as it is becoming the instrument of the government to choke the financial flows to the NGOs. What we see today is there is a huge trust deficit among the NGOs and the government. And then let's get into the issue on the business page. So it is about real estate regulation law. According to real estate regulation law, every state has to create a real estate regulatory authority. And then the retailing agent shall get a license. Every project has to be registered with the regulating agency. And only 10% of the money has to be collected from the consumers and 70% of the money paid by the consumers have to be kept in an escrow account, which is meant for the completion of that project alone. Now, what the normal real estate agents does, they start one project and the money which has come from the project, they divert it for the another project. Because of this, this project gets halted. Now, 70% of the funds have to be kept in the escrow account, and it shall be used only for the project which is, which it is been paid for. And 5 years of maintenance belongs to the developer, and if there is any structural damage, the developer has to pay for it. And in India, the land records are the major problem. So in this case, once you buy a house, there might be a litigation coming up on the land title. So that's why a new concept which is coming up, it is called as land title insurance. So if tomorrow someone claims that the land title belongs to them, then you can seek the insurance from the insurance companies. That's why land title insurance is the new thing. And added to that, any misleading advertisements are bound to be punished by the authority, and appellate boards are also been created for the same purpose. Now, coming to the first page, Raj Bhavan North, that is Rail Bhavan North Block spar after budget merger. You know that the rail budget is been merged with the general budget. So when it has been merged, it has been stated that the 9,000 plus crores of rupees which the railways is paying as dividend to government of India need not be paid for. And now the finance ministry has issued a notice to the various public sector undertakings associated with the Ministry of Railways for the payment of dividends. As the budget got merged, whatever the capital assets of the railways and with these public sector undertakings becomes the government of India's, and they are expected to pay the dividends to government of India. That is what is the argument. So Rail Bhavan obviously opposes to the same. I have given the notes to you, and it will be posted at laex.in/civils-prep. The person who is posting the news was on leave, and today he will be coming back and he will try to post everything. And thank you very much and all the best.